come down a little bit, and we're good. Can you do that? What? I don't even have to do anything. He's all over it. Hello, world of internet. I'm Greg Savage, and to my left or right, depending on your orientation, is my wonderful co-host Jake Firewarden, and we are about to do a show for you.
Yes.
It's called Hamilton.
Yep, but it's the off-Broadway version, where we all replace all of the American characters with characters from
The
Cuba.
Smurfs.
Yeah, the Cuban Smurfs. Yep.
Did you say from Cuba?
Yeah, from Cuba.
Wow, that really is going to stretch my knowledge of world politics.
Well, we got
Fidel.
the guy with the beard. Yeah, Fidel Castro. We got his son.
See? Now I just feel that I'm blushing.
Yeah.
I presume I meant to know
blushing
that. Karl Marx.
No.
Oh.
Okay, that's funny.
Dear. Anyway,
You might say that Karl Marx was a bit of maybe a bit of Fidel Castro's father, if you like. He wasn't, but you know,
we can say that
the communism that was adapted, that was adopted.
Right, we can say it, and people can look it up
It'd
for
be
themselves.
a lie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay. I do have a bit of a sore neck today, ladies and gentlemen. So if I move like I have a sore neck, that is the reason why.
I was going to say, Greg, you're moving like you've got a sore neck.
Yeah, well,
Is there any reason why?
It's the new dance craze.
Yep.
It's called the I painted my house during the holidays neck. All right.
Oh, I've heard of that.
It's good. Yeah, it's good dance.
I haven't seen it on TikTok yet, but I'm aware that it is coming.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm a trendsetter. Oh dear. Hello, and welcome to The Pouch, the podcast equivalent to cooking a curry on a barbecue that aims to take a not-so-serious look at the week in Australian news and or politics. I'm Greg. Well, if the history of my open browser tabs isn't enough for a diagnosis of ADHD, then I don't know what is. Savage.
And I'm Jake. Oi, love, let's go down to Bunnings for electrical tape and a Sanger and a vaccine. Wharton. On today's episode, we talk branch stacking, COVID disparity, carbon action, and so very much more.
Jake, I haven't been this excited since Kathy Freeman lit up the cauldron at the Sydney 2000 Olympic Games. Did she do that?
Yeah.
Why not?
Sure did.
And and while we're as snug as a bug in this proverbial rug, I want to know, how do we hold Twitter trolls accountable?
Oh, it's actually related to the way that Kathy Freeman dealt with her little torch. You actually just put them in a giant cauldron, set them on fire. Very effective. Very effective. It's what we call
most
the
of them are young people,
solution. Hey, look, you gotta teach them young. Look, a little bit of a singeing, a little bit of a third degree. As I often say, what's a second degree burn between friends?
Exactly. And in the spirit of reconciliation and recognition, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which Jake and I are podcasting today. We recognize their continuing connection to land, water, and community. We pay our respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. What a week, Jake.
I know.
What a week.
It's
What a week.
It's been a whirlwind.
Yeah, look, New South Wales hasn't really been in the news all that much, which is fantastic for a change, because I don't have to feel guilty about talking about it or not talking about it. We got a little bit in there today, but, fantastic. I think we're very, very low on cases today, 360 or something ridiculous.
Ridiculously low.
The only thing I can think to mention is that Perrottet...
Freedom! Okay, the other thing.
He did say that we were leading Australia out of the pandemic, that New South Wales was leading out of the pandemic, and the Chaser did a headline saying, Western Australia, Queensland, South Australia are all like, okay, cool, man. Yeah, sounds good. You do you. Well... We're just going to ride this vaccine wave for a bit and then just keep living like we've been living for ages. But, hey, good on you. Leading us out. Yeah, sounds really good.
Yeah, look, the point that he made is, I think, a really important one, in that, Australia is essentially saying this is what the future holds for all of the states, which is vaccinated people get more rights and unvaccinated people can wait until they're vaccinated to get rights. And, for everything else, we're opening up. International borders will open soon. National borders will probably never open.
No.
Because, no, yeah. It's, yeah. But
Well, there is talk
truly-
about
it
international
is
borders
truly-
opening up before the end of the year, which is exciting.
Yeah.
So what's the vibe in Queensland about the new premier? I had a premonition about Perrottet, if you will, the other day, which was that I don't know if it's going to last very long.
Yeah, why?
Well, just because he's made a couple of sort of quite out there sort of boo-boos. Like the first thing he did was take a photo of himself jogging by the Sydney Harbour Bridge, which is well out of his 5-kilometre radius that everyone else had to adhere to, before last week. Yesterday he went in, or today, or yesterday probably, he went into a pub and had a drink while standing up, which is completely and utterly illegal. But they decided not to. That the police said that they were going to use caution. And he's just not very funny, I think we expect a bit of humour from our politicians these days, and he's not very funny,
No, well, he, this was the warning. He comes from the conservative side of politics, so, and that's not to say the conservative people can't be funny.
I'll say it. Conservative people cannot be funny. They do not have a sense of humour.
It's actually illegal for them to be funny.
That's right. You get kicked straight out of the party.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, look, it's one of those things. I personally, I think he'll be fine as long as he can withstand the probably interminable knocks at his door from other people wanting his job within his party over the next probably few months. Then I'd say he's pretty fine. Like, this was him beforehand. Like, this was him as the treasurer. You want a solid guy as your treasurer? He's a solid guy. Now that solid guy has become premier, which is, funnily enough, quite common for people who have been treasurers.
Yeah, look, so, you know where he stands, which is good. I think I said that last week. You know where he stands on everything. He's against the...
At the bar. The bar.
Yeah, he stands at the bar. You guys up there, speaking of, we're leading the way, Jake, of course, down here in New South Wales.
Bars, yeah.
But you guys have got some exciting
famously
news.
Drunk.
I know, right? And you get drunk and you love going to Bunnings. And so what you guys are doing some wonderful progressive things up there with your Bunnings. What's happening there?
Yeah, well, essentially the well-known slogan of Bunnings has always been Bunnings, go get some nails.
Yes.
As we all know this, right?
Yeah. They change it on a seasonal basis, don't they? Go get some nails, go get some screws, go get a wardrobe for some reason. Yeah.
Yep. Go get a gun safe. That was always weird.
Yeah.
We never understood that. But then, hey, we're Queensland, so we're like a weird dichotomy. But yeah, look, they've added another line to their Bunnings, go get some nails tagline, which this week is Bunnings, go get some nails and vaccinated.
That's crazy.
Which, this is, classic Bunnings, right? They're just trying to jump on the popular bandwagon of offering vaccine. No, it's really good actually. So in the last week, it's been announced, or I should say, in the last few hours, it's been announced that
is this like breaking news, Jake? We're breaking it here.
I wouldn't say it's breaking.
I'm going to say it's breaking. Conservatives don't have a sense of humour, and this is breaking news. Yep.
Good. I like this. We're treading new ground today.
Yep, absolutely.
So Bunnings stores will, from I believe it's next week, be able to organise for COVID vaccines.
Right.
Essentially in walk-in clinics in a number of locations: Brisbane, Moreton, Gold Coast, Logan, Darling Downs, Rockhampton, Mackay, Townsville, Bundaberg, Hervey Bay, and Dalby. They'll all have the opportunity for walk-in vaccine clinics at those locations, which is really great.
That's crazy, man. I can't. So they'll have a nurse, right? It's not John with the hat dishing out vaccines. No. They're going to have a nurse, and it's going to be quite sterile, I imagine. The Bunnings I've been into don't scream sterility.
No, they. It's
possible that's because that's not a word.
No, they do. They do scream. The sterile stuff's in aisle 16, mate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
That was a poorly timed joke.
There was.
But that screams sterility, but they do scream where it is.
Right.
It will be nurses. It'll be the exact same service that Queenslanders can access elsewhere in the state. It's just that it's also conveniently located at the same place where you might go and get your Saturday or Sunday morning concrete or plants, Bunnings snag, and now vaccine. So it's really cool.
Yeah, I'm a concrete fan, Jake. Quickset all the way.
Huge. Oh,
Life-changing.
Post mix, a bit more calcium carbonate, a little bit less sand. I love this stuff.
I don't actually have any idea of what I'm talking about. So I just know that Quickset is a thing. It's quite cheap, $6 a bag.
It is.
It's quite good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that cheap? Who knows?
It
Anyway,
is roughly cheap, but it doesn't stay for. It's not long. It's not durable stuff, unfortunately.
what? Quickset?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's
It's not
unfortunate.
as durable as like the Post mix or
that's really
or the
unfortunate.
regular.
I won't go into details about how I used it then.
Oh, this is your monolith.
Yes, for the monolith.
Yeah,
Anyway,
okay.
my story is for our little warm up here, Jake, is a little more serious. But I think it's interesting, right? So among the many things that I've learnt during this pandemic, including how comfortable UGG boots are, how difficult it is to teach a child to ride a bike, and how much people apparently love their travel and picnics. Can't believe how much people love their picnics. There's also the lesson about the overt and covert, and I'm going to say it, class divide here in Australia. Sports stars and politicians get a free ride when it comes to travel, a lesson in the fact that there's only so much economic impact that the government is willing to sustain before exceptions begin to get made. The greater your literal economic value, the less the travel exemptions and other laws apply to you, while naturally the converse is true as well. Unfortunately, the divide is not just limited to travel, but health advantages as well, with a news article in today's Guardian website highlighting the fact that, with a cleverly headlined article, I might add, Delta deaths expose Australia's great disadvantaged divide. It's very
you
serious.
might call it the Delta divide.
The Delta divide, yes. Let's do that. I'm going to call it the Delta divide on our thing here. If you are listening, you can leave a comment to anything that we are speaking about at the moment. I'll try and stay up to date with what we are speaking about with a little thing.
Yep.
Ticker, the pouch, the ticker down the bottom.
Yeah, and as I regularly say as well, if you don't have a comment, please leave a comment that says no comment, please.
Absolutely. And we'll bring it up on the
important.
screen and have an in-depth discussion about it, because that's the sort of hard-hitting journalism you get from the pouch, or not journalism.
We're not journalists,
'cause
we're
not journalists.
commentariats.
I found out that Jake has a degree in ants today.
Yeah,
which is great.
Anthropology.
Anthropology.
It's
yes.
all about the thropology of ants.
Ah, is that what it is? Okay. New South Wales health data to the 6th of October obtained by The Guardian shows 137, or 34%, of the 403 deaths during the Delta outbreak occurred in the southwestern Sydney local health district. Now, it doesn't actually say whether or not that's a lower socioeconomic area. So I did the footwork for everyone today, and I superimposed the socioeconomic sort of maps over the top of the Delta outbreak, and they're spot on. Believe it or not, their journalism is accurate. I have confirmed it. Data. The department said it could not provide data by local government area for privacy reasons. So when we're talking about New South Wales, we're not talking about LGAs. We're talking about the health districts, which are a little bit larger than LGAs. So I learned today. But anyway, data tallied from Victoria. So now we're shifting gears to Victoria. From the Victorian Health Department's statements show the 28 deaths in the council area of Hume in the outer north represent about 31% of the 88 fatalities throughout Victoria during Delta. So they represent 31% of the 88 fatalities throughout Victoria during Delta. The city of Hume is Melbourne's third most disadvantaged local government area, according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics Socioeconomic Indexes for Areas, or SCSEA for short, which considers a range of factors including income, employment, education, housing, access to services, and English proficiency. An Australian Institute of Health and Welfare report released last month found that last year there had been almost 4 times as many deaths due to COVID-19 recorded for the people in lowest socioeconomic groups compared to those in the highest. 4 times. Jake. That's more than 2 times. The report also cited Guardian analysis from last year that found of the 550 deaths attributed to specific Victorian homes in September of last year, 41% occurred in facilities located in suburbs in the bottom 30% of the socioeconomic disadvantage. Back to New South Wales. It's very sad.
What I found interesting as well is that socioeconomic indexes for areas of the Cephia index doesn't include relative health. So it surprises me because one of the markers of socioeconomic status is prevalence of morbidity, so disease,
Right.
and often comorbidity. So diabetes and cardiovascular disease, or respiratory issues and something else, dermatitis or whatever. So I think that's quite interesting because quite often one of the reasons why people invariably are unable to access great housing in expensive areas is because they're unwell and unable to do certain jobs, and as a consequence they're unable to find employment in areas that would be higher paying regardless of their education. But this is quite harrowing.
Well, Jake, I see on here that you would like to discuss maybe 3 contributing factors to this great Australia divide in Delta. Because it is clear, isn't it? I mean, there's not just a divide with between the states. Like that was such a harrowing thing to watch, and is still a harrowing thing to watch, I think. But also the divide within between states and within states, right? And that's what we're sort of talking about here, is that there are these natural, not natural, but there are by design, really. There are these sort of designed gaps in health, which affects it. But what are some of the contributing factors?
That fall within the socioeconomic line. So there's 3 really. It's it falls around the policy failures, the work requirements, and housing. But in terms of policy failure, local doctors have complained about data revealed, in the recent past in the Age newspaper, showing that Hume's GPs have been receiving fewer doses of Pfizer compared to more affluent areas in Melbourne, and that's been widely documented, not just in Victoria but in other states as well. Local government areas, mayors are often the ones that hold the press conferences with the local press to say, hey, we've got plenty of people in this little area, but not many vaccines. What's going on? I hear of major clinics in the major CBDs where are our vaccine doses. We've got just as higher, if not higher, need than those in the CBDs because of our lower socioeconomic status areas. But around the work requirements, Dr. George Disney, a research fellow in the name,
just the name. Yep. Anyway, I just had an image of Walt Disney doing that. Anyway, yep.
Me too. Yeah, that's. I can't. I've never drawn the. Anyway.
No.
Yes, he's a epidemiologist in social epidemiology at University of Melbourne, and said that the way that the virus honed in on disadvantaged communities had been utterly predictable. And I assume that he's referring to the way that major communicable diseases often find their way into these lower socioeconomic areas.
Yes.
Particularly along the lines, and the next topic is around housing. You've got huge amounts of high density housing. You've got huge amounts of social welfare-based housing, or they refer to as council homes, or there are other names for it as well. But essentially, the types of housing that essentially you can access if you're on a very, very set and very minimal income. But yeah, it's not at all surprising because essentially we knew that this was going to happen because it falls along the same lines as things like influenza and other highly communicable diseases.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Very
I
interesting,
hadn't thought
very
about that.
harrowing,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, look, the modelling has been out for a little while, and yeah, it is utterly predictable. And one of the key factors here in New South Wales that came up a fair bit was the fact that Job Seeker 2.0 or whatever never really came into fruition. It was sort of a bit of a fizzer there as well. So really, people were still being very much encouraged to go to work. And the people who have to go to work, who have to actually drive to work, are from those lower socioeconomic areas. They don't do office work. They're not. They're out there doing the hard yards for everyone, and they're living in more confined spaces and all that sort of stuff as well. So, yeah, it really does. Delta has really highlighted the Great Australian Divide, if you will.
Yeah, I will.
You will. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
I did actually. I recently did. Yep.
Okay. Now, Jake, I hope you've been watching the news. If we scroll down, if we head down to federal politics story number 1, you'll see that I've put a headline here, which is business. Now, you have to be the knowledgeable other here, even if I have put you on the spot a little bit, because I reach a limit with my knowledge very quickly in this particular area. The Business Council of Australia calls for ambitious short-term carbon emissions reduction target. So just a little bit of background. The Business Council of Australia, which obviously represents...
Or
the BCAR? I love that. The Business Council of Australia, which represents the businesses around Australia, obviously. And I think, if I understand it correctly, about 2018, they actually came out and said that they weren't pro zero, a net zero target. But have recently changed their tune, with one of the reasons being that investors now are looking for renewable energy rather than fossil fuels and things like that. The organisation is...
And it goes a step further than that, Greg. They see, so right, back in 2019, maybe things were a little bit more certain for their members, and I'm being slightly facetious, but they're aligned to large corporations, industries, as much as they are for farmers associations, etc. And the nature of the carbon business is that if you are a carbon producer over the long term, there is a great possibility that you are going to have to fork out investment in order to align yourself with new targets if they pop up, and things have changed. Huge amounts of Australia's GDP generating industries have been told that essentially the countries that purchase the stuff that they dig out of the ground is only going to be purchased for a few more years. And they have to figure out a way to essentially, find new stuff to do, or their workers have to find new stuff to do. So essentially they're on the hook for a transition, and it's time for, businesses are essentially saying, hey, Prime Minister, hey, federal organisations, we want to be on a trajectory for certainty for our investors, for certainty for our members. And, we want to essentially be the positive organisation that suggests that now's the time for change, and now's the time to set the policy, the strategy, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, they're all really good points. I wanted to bring up who the Business Council of Australia is. So direct from their website, their purpose is that they aim to ensure Australia is economically strong. I've still got the Delta Divide on here. Goodness me, how embarrassing. Let's change that to BCA calls for strong emissions target.
Yeah.
That sounds good. So they work to ensure Australia is economically strong to support a fair, free and inclusive society for all Australians. Achieving this requires successful, well-run businesses that create meaningful jobs and inclusive work environments which reflect and are accountable to the broader Australian community. Gosh, I would have loved to have been in the meeting that was discovered.
Yep.
The Business Council champions the role that responsible businesses play in generating sustainable economic growth and advocate for policy settings that are in the national interest. So they obviously have a lot of sway. I'd be interested to find out sort of, why the government, I suppose, is interested in this. Is it a lobbying thing? Is it a finance thing? Is it just that they want to have, the vote from business people? Is it a way to win, if you sort of go along with what the Business Council of Australia says, is that a way to win a whole bunch of, future constituents or whatever?
I'd say definitely it's probably not a way to win constituents, because it's still unpopular with, a good portion of Nationals voters, for example, and One Nation voters, and people on the conservative side of politics. It's certainly not up their wheelhouse, but certainly for anyone sort of on the left of politics, or anyone aligned with just general ability to understand basic science, stuff warms up, things die.
That's great. That's great. I'm going to record that and show that to my students when I'm teaching them about climate change.
The basic premise, guys, is stuff warms up. Yeah. Stuff dies.
Living things don't like heat, generally speaking, unless you're a lizard. Okay. And this is all sort of coming out. This is a big sort of political story, in the sense that we have COP26 coming up in Glasgow. Yes. And, there's still pressure. There's now pressure from the Prince, I believe, for Scott Morrison to step up and head
the Prince has apparently guilted Scott Morrison into attending. Scott Morrison essentially said, I've spent too much time in quarantine now. I am sick of it.
Yeah.
I'm sick of my own face. I'm sick of my own smell.
The curries on the barbecue.
Yep, I love that. By the way, that was fantastic.
Yeah.
The Prince has effectively guilted. I mean, I'm sure that the Prince will take responsibility for it, but it's likely the overwhelming pressure from his party, his political party, with the exception of the Nationals Party. With reference to this BCA announcement, Deputy Prime Minister Barnaby Joyce has warned the BCA that they would be on the hook for any failures associated with the request to put forward emissions reduction targets of up to 50%. But interestingly enough, there's been quite a lot of publicity over the last week suggesting that Scott Morrison is inching towards an announcement around net zero carbon emissions by 2050.
It seems like that, doesn't it? Do we know any details about what? Because obviously the Nationals are holding off and they want some sort of deals and all that sort of stuff. Do we know the details of what those deals are? Like, what do the Nationals get out of it to say, yes, okay, we're going to back net zero?
Yeah, there's two things that we're aware of based on previous commentary. So we don't know what's going to be negotiated in the cabinet, but what
if
we
you do,
suggest is
call us.
Yes, call us immediately.
Yeah.
We're our phone number is 1. It's very easy to remember.
Just pick up your phone and dial 1.
Yeah, dial 1
and wait.
Yes,
we'll be there.
The ringtone will be there for a little while. But so we don't know what's going to be discussed in the cabinet, but we're pretty sure it'll fall along the lines that they've commented on previously. Number one is that all agricultural sectors should be excluded. This is for a number of reasons. It's not just carbon that is emitted; it's also methane. It's big and unfortunate. It's actually more problematic than carbon. But not emitted as much as carbon. But then the other side of that is, the Nationals Party have moved away from their traditional, I suppose, base of farmers to being the party of miners. That's
right.
MINERS. Yeah. They're not just the party for kids.
Is that Matt Canavan and that sort of crew? Is Matt Canavan a national person? Yeah, okay.
The resources minister?
Yeah, he loves himself some carbon and some mining, doesn't
coal.
he?
Yeah. Loves getting dirty with loves soot on his face.
Yeah.
There's a great photo, I think it's on his website, of him just sooty. He's got a sooty face.
Yeah.
Even though there's very little evidence that he's ever even stepped foot in a mine for even just marketing purposes or press conference purposes.
Coming back to Barnaby Joyce, he did mention that the failures will be on the BCA, right? So if we go down this path and it all sort of falls to rubbish, they're going to have to hang their hat on it, right? Which I'm sure they're terrified about. And but I know that he's sort of also citing the UK fuel shortage and all that sort of stuff, and I'm not even going to remotely pretend that I understand that very much. I know that there's some conflicting arguments for why it's happening, but it's a bit of a perfect storm, isn't it? In that he sort of gets a bit of a free pass for this sort of public discussion by saying, well, look what's happening in the UK, and then it's kind of up to you to figure out, well, what the heck's happening in the UK.
Fact checking. Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of fact checking on those claims that have that the Deputy Prime Minister has made, and it essentially shows that the fuel crisis is not because of the introductions of zero emissions targets by 2050 at all. So there's really no foundation to it. But certainly there is going to be, look, if we don't do something, we're in trouble. If we do something without strategy and without a plan, we're going to be in trouble. And one of the things that that Barnaby has been saying for a long time is, I need to see the plan. I need to see the menu.
Yes.
You can't just say, here's the thing.
That's right.
I want to see the menu,
yes.
right? Okay. But he has been in power for the last 5 years alongside, sure, he hasn't been the Deputy Prime Minister, but he has been a member of a party who has been in power for the last, the last 9 years, actually. So, yeah, look, it's crazy talk from a person in power saying, I want to see the strategy, when you're literally the guys elected to write the strategy. Anyway, it's just a bit of hubris on their part, deflection on their part. But invariably, they are going to have to make some concessions. They're going to have to put forward their case for concessions themselves as well, and meet on an even playing field with the government and do some negotiating.
Yep,
Will be interesting to see.
Well, couldn't have put it better myself, Jake. That's wonderful. Speaking of Twitter, Barnaby Joyce is a huge Twitter fan, isn't he? He loves jumping on Twitter.
Just huge
and doing
in general,
random,
but also...
yeah. He is a larger than life character, isn't he? I love the fact that he does his, and I'm sure it's a legitimate thing. I'm sure that this is why his constituents love him as well. He does these interviews on national television in his hat. Usually on a farm, his farm, with really dodgy internet. It's like, good on you, Yep. That's a real Australian. that's the authentic Australian experience, Yep. You look dreadful in a hat.
He's out there showing how great the national broadband network is.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, first-hand account. But he does love himself some Twitter. And recently, Scott Morrison has come under fire for not holding sort of ICAC, this whole ICAC business. But he has decided that he's going to go after Twitter trolls. So he's referred to social media as a coward's palace, as he promises more action to hold online abusers responsible. Look, I don't know how this is going to work. I know that there's a lot of discussion about sort of talking about having Facebook and Twitter in particular listed as publishers, which would make them accountable for absolutely everything that's written on their... Well, did you just roll your eyes at me, Jake Farwarden?
I did. It's just such an astoundingly silly thing. Yeah.
Tell me why. Why is it so silly? Tell me why.
Well, okay, so having them essentially having them made publishers and having them made accountable for, and sorry for rolling my eyes.
No, I know it wasn't at. We don't have that sort of relationship.
Having them accountable for what is published on their platforms means that they will have to invest enormous amounts of money in order to essentially enable people, they'll have to police essentially every comment that's made, everything that is posted on their platforms. They will need to police everything there to ensure that it is not libelistic. Australia's libel laws and defamation laws are among the most stringent and easiest to sue on in the world. And in fact, that statement that I just made, I may get sued for saying something,
Great.
and I didn't accuse anybody of anything.
We need the publicity, so go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. But it's one of those, like, can you imagine, like, we have just raked Facebook and Google over the coals in order to essentially pay our media organizations for the publishing of news that is on their platforms. Through that media code that was put forward last year.
We went into
Can
depth.
you imagine
we went into depth about that, Jake.
We did indeed. And can you imagine the amount of money that would be required? That, they'd either need to essentially turn off all commenting and turn off all posting from all people, institute a 2 strikes rule or even less, a 1 strike rule. They'd need to institute majorly stringent algorithms that picked up phrases, and the second that somebody started typing, I think this guy is a, they would be cut off, and it's just such a silly and short-sighted, and moreover, it's such a misdirection. It's like, this is the least important thing going on in Australia today, right?
Maybe
we've got vaccinations that need to happen. We've got opening up that needs to happen. We've got an economy that was bad before COVID arrived. We've got, carbon coming out the wazoo, methane. But, like, it is I love it when the Prime Minister is like, I'm being asked to do something, right? I'm being asked to institute essentially a body that would investigate and be able to act upon corruption. In fact, I have been asked to do this to such a degree that I agreed to do it last election. And now, because of what's occurred in New South Wales and indeed in Victoria, by way of the branch stacking allegations that have been made, he's now being asked to essentially come forward with his commitment, and to institute a commission. And you know what he does? He says, Facebook is bad.
That's right. Okay, and the ICAC thing is its own little chestnut there. This is all sort of coming about because of Barnaby Joyce, right? A furious Barnaby Joyce has hit out at social media giants and trolls and faceless cowards following a malicious lie about his daughter. Barnaby Joyce has stepped up his attack on social media platforms and online trolls after one of his daughters became the subject of a devastating lie. Earlier this week, vile false rumours, not just vile rumours, but vile false rumours, emerged that Mr. Joyce's eldest daughter, Bridget, was in a relationship with outgoing New South Wales Nationals leader John Barilaro, who stood down on Monday. Bridget Joyce, who has been described by colleagues as hardworking and admired, has worked in Mr. Barilaro's office since February, and Mr. Joyce decided to publicly speak out about the rumours yesterday, condemning them as utter rubbish and calling for action to be taken against social media giants, which allow character assassinations to be published. It's all sort of come out about that. It's also that in the United States, my understanding is that there's a congressional hearing into how they can fix the problem about this, which sort of leads into that, the international story of the Facebook whistleblower, Frances Haugen, but we won't go too much into that. But yes, okay. So look, we know that these, we know that the Facebook misinformation is dreadful. We know that Twitter is, what would you say, a haven for those sort of, like you said, those coward sort of comments and all that sort of stuff you wouldn't traditionally say face to face. We know that places like TikTok are targeting younger people, and they're sort of, they're really, the kids are allowed to embellish in their own, eating disorders, or, the way that they look, or whatever it is, their mental health, all that sort of stuff. It feeds right off all that. The algorithm loves all that controversy, all of that time being spent on there. So the question is, what do you do about it? I mean, how do you do that? My understanding is that if I'm responsible for what is said on the Pouch the Podcast Facebook page, right? That's my understanding at the moment with the laws that we've got, is that if someone goes on there and starts broadcasting something, technically I'm responsible for it. I'm responsible for moving, and I'm responsible for monitoring it. Luckily for us, Jake, there's precisely 0 people who are engaged on our Facebook page. I think we made a Facebook page the week that they went out of fashion. So, but yeah. Anyway, look, it's interesting. So, what do you do about it? How do you stop? Should they even be held accountable? Where does the freedom of speech start and the accountability end, sort of thing? It's a tricky one.
It is, and there are laws to address bullying, yes, threats, yes. There are laws to deal with those types of things. There are laws to deal with hate speech. There are laws, but invariably there is certain types of speech that is, not libelous, not defamatory, that is, just plain bullying. And there are some avenues that people could go down. There's the the cyber commissioner at a federal level. Some states have something similar, but look, sometimes you just got to deal with them the old-fashioned way and put them in an Olympic cauldron and light it on fire. No, but seriously,
I think the thing
there's
is,
not much that you can do. Invariably, it's the same as bullying in person. There are plenty of tactics to deal with bullies in person, but invariably the only thing that is going to get you away from it is to remove yourself from the situation. And,
I suppose that's the thing. It's not, because this situation with Barnaby Joyce as well, it's not even that he's actually being bullied, right? It's a rumor. No. So, and we need to be able to question the validity of certain stories and all that sort of stuff. So, someone putting out there, hey, I've heard, that Bridget is involved with John Barilaro romantically. That's not libel. That's just a rumor, right? And then if I start saying, hey, I know that, that Bridget was involved in that, in a romantic relationship with John Barilaro, maybe that's where it ends. I don't know. But, rumors are rumors, I don't know. Surely politicians have a stronger backbone than that to deal with some rumors. I don't know.
John Barilaro has the dreamiest eyes of any Western-oriented gentleman that I'm aware of. So
okay. Well,
if people start hearing rumors about me, no, I'm telling you now, he has dreamy eyes. And if some people hear that I am romantically attached to that, I don't want to dispel that rumor. Okay? Because that man is a delicious slice of humanity. Yeah. Okay. You heard it here first.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Jake. I support you, and that's wonderful. I'd like to know what sort of pomade he uses, because he does have wonderful hair.
He has a very, very sharp point.
He does have a sharp point. Gets to the point. He's straight away. Anyway,
has pointy hair.
Yeah. And we're definitely not going to see him or Gladys Berejiklian or the New South Wales Treasurer in federal politics anytime soon. So they say. Anyway, okay, well, that's very interesting. Something to keep an eye on. It's a more of a philosophical debate that we don't really do here at The Pouch, Jake. We do hard-hitting journalism, Well, we read what the hard-hitting journalists say. Yeah. If you do have a comment, please leave it in the comment section below of your Facebook, Twitter thing of choice.
And if you don't have a comment, make sure that you leave a comment saying no comment.
Absolutely. That's provided that my comments are working. So if anyone wants to leave a comment and test that out, that'd be wonderful. Because if you're leaving comments and I can't see them, then that means they're not working, which defeats the whole purpose of this entire
Which, if you want to do that, if you could just test by saying test comment, no comment.
All right. We touched on this a little bit, Jake. This can be our last story for tonight, but it's about the no comment. Here we go. We got one. There we go. Yeah. Great.
Thanks, Raf.
Thanks. No comments. Excellent. Thank you for that. It is working. So that's from YouTube. Excellent job. And okay, so let's get into now. This is a fascinating story. I love this story so much, Jake. This is just wonderful.
I don't know which story you're talking about.
Okay, we're talking about state politics here, and the minister resigning after allegedly Allegedly,
Yeah.
even though he confessed to it, paying membership fees for others in branch stacking scheme. Now, I'm not sure he actually admitted to it. He admitted to seeing it, and he admitted to knowing that it happens. But then he resigned, right? Okay, so Victorian Aged Care Minister Luke Donnellan has quit the Labor ministry after he was accused of paying Labor Party membership fees on behalf of others. So he was accused of led by former power broker Adam Somyurek, who we have covered in great detail. And you should
probably too much detail.
Absolutely,
So say the lawyers.
that's right. You should absolutely not go back and listen to those if you are a lawyer. Those episodes, because I have no idea how you would begin to find them. Anyway, and contributed to a kitty, quote unquote, which was used to pay for membership to control branches and secure positions in Parliament for allies. The thing I love about this story, Jake, it's so great, right? Because so this is a state Labor person in Victoria who has been basically, accused, and I can't find anywhere it actually says he said he confesses to branch stacking, but accused of branch stacking, investigated for branch stacking, quits over branch stacking, which is against Labor federal
Party
laws,
rules.
right? Party rules. Sorry, not laws, rules. And Anthony Albanese is refusing to kick him out.
Yep.
It's fantastic. So
Yep.
you've got the New South Wales ministry is dropping like flies, state ministry is dropping like flies, and now you've got this whole sort of background situation happening in Victoria. Resignations.
In the lead up to an election as well.
Yes. A federal election?
No. Well, that too, but no, there's a Victorian election coming up, I think, in a few months.
What, state?
State election.
Premier?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I thought it was 20...
versus whomever.
Yes, we spoke about him the other week. Yes, the mobster with the lobster. Yes. Okay, all right. Well, give us some details here, Jake. What's happening here? What is branch stacking? And why does it make me feel hungry?
Perhaps it's because it aligns with the pancake of bad ideas. You've
mixed your metaphors there, Jake. It is the whiteboard of bad ideas, and it was the if I'm not mistaken, it was the
pancake
blueberries.
of corruption.
That's right. It was the blueberries on the pancakes of corruption. Yes.
Yeah, that's it.
That's our two in jokes, ladies and gentlemen. That's all we've got.
Yeah. For this episode anyway, stay tuned for more inside jokes that you will not get regardless of how hard you try. So branch stack is essentially where you stack the branch, so in your favor. So when you bring in voting members, so people who have a membership within the organization, and you pay for their membership, or you sign them on, or you fraudulently sign them on, and in doing so, you secure their vote, most likely for you, for the things that you want to do. So that means that if in your branch you want to get your mate, Daryl, who's he throws the best barbecues, and he also has some racist opinions. But let's leave that to the side, okay? But he was your mate from back when you were working in the banking sector together. You brought on a whole bunch of new clients. You work really well together. You want this dude on the party. But in order to get him into the party, he needs to be pre-selected. And in order to be pre-selected, it needs to go through the branch.
Right.
So that will only work for you if you've got the branch on your side. And you can either do that by A, making great arguments, or B, stacking the branch. I'm sure that there's a C.
Okay, so if I'm a Labor, let's say I've joined the Labor Party, right?
Yeah.
I haven't, but let's say that I have.
First
joined
of all,
the Labor Party.
Oh, okay.
So do I have to? I'm just a member of the Labor Party, and then I can join a branch, or do I have to sign up for a branch when I become a member of the Labor Party?
The latter. So by signing up to a branch, you become a member of the Labor Party.
Right. So I actually go to a physical building.
Sometimes,
Is that what a branch is?
Sometimes,
Or is
if
a
it
branch
requires-
is a
No,
branch
it's not really. It's a local chapter. It's like
Right.
a local area
Got it.
organization.
Okay.
It's
So
like the Lions Club. You're a member of the broader Lions Club, but your Lions Club might have a tambourine division or a whatever.
right. So if this was and I've lost my page here. If this was Anthony Byrne, right? Who's the MP who is branch stacking. So Anthony Byrne was paying the fees for people to join branches, right?
Yep.
And they would then vote for him. How much are these fees?
Oh, they're not much. They might be, $250 for the original, and then a recurring fee each year.
Is that real?
So it's not. Yeah. It's not. That's not the real figures. No, that's just off the top of my head. But
Right.
they're not enormous things. They're the sorts of fees that you would expect from an organization that only exists and only is able to market itself come election times on the back of the money that they're able to raise either through memberships or through donations from other
Right.
people. So
Okay.
yeah, it's just one of those things.
And it's not illegal, right?
It's definitely not fair. So it would be illegal if government funds were used in order to do that. So let's say, for example, Tony Menenges he's a member of the Labor Party. He's in power, and he's able to lobby for a Methodist car park vaccination unicorn fund.
Right.
And that fund, there's $15,000 left over after the unicorn for the Methodist car park is purchased. And that money is used to go into essentially pay for membership fees. That would be misappropriation of public funds, and that would be evidence of corruption. But in the case where you yourself throw in money into a kitty where a whole bunch of people put in money for this purpose, so it's out of your own pocket and you're funding a bunch of people's memberships out of that kitty, it is definitely not illegal. It's definitely it's the equivalent of me paying for membership in for you. It's the equivalent of me paying for your membership in my Lions Club.
Okay, so I just want to. That's all fair enough, and I just want to backtrack here a little bit, okay? Because I've got a couple of people mixed up here. So I just want to say that Mr. Byrne, right? That Anthony Byrne yesterday admitted to the independent broadband. Oh, this was my favourite bit of this story. I can't believe I forgot to mention it. So we've been going on about ICAC. I thought they were all ICACs, but no, Victoria has an IBAC.
Yeah, because they wanted theirs to be broad-based.
So they have the
It's
independent.
just such a weird name.
Just change it to ICAC, would you? So it's all like, gosh,
we want
it's
an
like,
independent, streamlined. No, this is not going to be ISAC.
this,
We want.
It's
not
is
gonna
what
be
they
the
should be
independent
called, Jake. They should be
streamlined.
called ISAC. Oh my goodness me, that is the title of this episode if ever I heard one. No, okay, so because that's what they're doing, right? They're sacking everyone. Okay, so yesterday, Mr. Byrne admitted to the Independent Broad-Based Anti-Corruption Commission, IBAC, the Victorian ICAC, was that he and others within the Victorian Labor Party had spent thousands of dollars over the years. One of the people that he mentioned was Luke Donnellan, who quit today, right? So he was named and was accused of that. Okay, so federal MP Anthony Byrne on Monday told a corruption inquiry that Mr. Donnellan was involved in a factional alliance with Mr. Somyurek and contributed to a kitty. Okay, so Anthony Byrne has dobbed on Luke Donnellan.
Yeah.
Right. Anthony Albanese is refusing to order Anthony Byrne to stand down, even though Donnellan's gone himself. The reason is that he wants the investigation to run its course.
Yep.
So does that mean he won't let him go now? And if IBAC, the Victorian ICAC, says that Anthony was a naughty boy, Albanese will let him go. That's what you imagine would happen.
I would imagine that what Albanese is attempting to do here is somewhat similar to what the Prime Minister has been doing for some months for several ministers, in saying, I'm not the policeman here, okay? The only people who should be making allegations of crimes and taking action against those allegations of crimes are the police or the institutions that are set up to do exactly that.
Right, because these ICAC, IBAC things, they don't prosecute, they don't charge with criminal conduct. They just basically make a recommendation that this person has engaged in criminal conduct. In corrupt conduct.
Corrupt conduct or corrupt behaviour, or failure to point out corruption, etc. If in terms of probity, etc. So what I would say with all of that is that I've forgotten what I was going to say.
That's very good.
Yeah.
Look, we have to be careful here, right? Because not you and I, we as Australians, we need to be careful, right? Because I can see where a lot of the politicians are coming from. In that, one of the backbones of our law is the idea of
presumption of innocence.
Presumption of innocence, right? And so what is happening is, as soon as you're under investigation in the court of public opinion, you are basically guilty. There's no difference. Once the word investigation, ICAC, Gladys Berejiklian are all said in the same sentence, that's it. Everyone who thought, she wasn't very good is now validated, all that sort of stuff. So they get more of a voice and say, well, blah, 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 blah. But we have to be careful, because there is this sort of, congealing of events in that once she resigned and the words corruption and ICAC were mentioned, you can see how the story gets distorted into some sort of evil Twitter rumor that, that they found her guilty of corruption and she was stood down. But no, she stood herself down to hold herself to the same, accountability measures that she holds her other MPs to. Whereas what Anthony Albanese and Scott Morrison are doing is saying, let's not jump the gun here. Let's not put the wheel before the cart, is it?
Cart before the horse?
Yeah, that one. Let's not put the bag before the cat, right?
Let's not count our eggs before they hatch.
No, that's right. Let's not count our wheels before they duck.
Yeah.
Now, so let's hold off and let's let the investigation run its course. If you all want this ICAC stuff, then let it run its course, and let's reserve judgment for that to happen, because there's going to be this continual revolving door of people being investigated and then asked to be stood down, or at least the public putting pressure on them to be stood down, even though they haven't actually been found guilty of anything. We see it on the. I think I mentioned it the other day in a chat about Friendly Geordies and John Barilaro. John Barilaro has never been found guilty of anything,
no.
But according to Friendly Geordies, John Barilaro is one of the most.
Guilty of a whole bunch of things.
That's right. He's guilty of a whole bunch of stuff. So you have to let these run at the course. I don't think you can have your cake and eat it too, I guess, is my point. You want an ICAC, then you can have an ICAC, but federal ministers and state ministers and local government people, whatever, should be able to keep their jobs while they're being investigated, I think. I suppose it depends on the level of the investigation, the nature of the investigation, maybe.
I disagree. I agree with your first point, in that the presumption of innocence should extend to these types of investigational bodies, because if they are found to have committed corrupt behaviour or not to have pointed out corruption where it existed, when they were aware of it, then that information could be handed off to the police, who could prosecute. But until then, all that you have is allegations. And it is so important for the justice system, for our general society, to have that presumption of innocence. There is a bit to be said about people who recognise that there is the potential for their good name to be sullied, and therefore they wish to remove themselves from, from the public spotlight while investigation is taking place. That's obviously potential. Sorry, I say obviously. That's potentially what Gladys Berejiklian did. In that, there was an investigation that had been announced, and she promptly resigned. And in order for that investigation to take place, whether she finds herself in federal politics, there was certainly plenty of hinting from one Scott Morrison and others in the federal Liberal Party this week. But invariably, it is one of those things that if you are accused of a crime, if you are accused of corruption or of any type of offence or perceived offence, you should have the presumption of innocence. You should have your day in court, and you should not have to resign unless you feel that that is what you want to do, which some have done and many will do in the future, and that's okay too.
Yeah. Okay. So that's I agree with you, and we know that Scott Morrison has come out with some criticisms and proposals and things for the federal ICAC to not hold public hearings. The limitation to who can actually submit applications for investigations to the federal ICAC, all that sort of stuff. Anthony Albanese this week has been busy on his Facebook page. He's basically saying that that Labor an Albanese government would deliver a federal ICAC with teeth. One that can actually investigate corruption. So we would presume that means rejecting the proposals that Scott Morrison has made about the federal ICAC as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because again, it's easy to say when you're not in power, but when you're the dog that catches the car, what do? You
bark.
Is that all you do?
Yeah, that's all I do.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a teethless dog, though.
Okay.
Maybe if I were a dog with teeth, maybe then I would latch on.
Speaking of Labor, one of the interesting things that they've proposed this week is that Labor has promised to increase Australian-made spend if it wins in the federal election. Opposition leader Anthony Albanese will promise to redirect billions of dollars in federal government spending towards Australian-owned businesses and jobs as part of a revived Australian-made focus. So that'll be interesting to see that. If you'd like more details about that, Google it yourself.
Oh, just watch me.
Or go on his Facebook page. He's been very busy this week with his Facebook page. I think the good thing about Anthony Albanese's Facebook page is that he
uses it.
Well, yeah, right. He uses it, and also it does actually give you some reasons to think that there might be some pretty fundamental differences between an Albanese government and a Scott Morrison government, right, in the federal level. So.
Not just the spelling of their names.
Not just the spelling of their names. So, a lot of people, I think, default to the idea that, there's, they're exactly the same. There's no difference between the two. What difference is there? Blah, 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 blah. I agree that there's a lot of not differences that should be critiqued. But at the same time, I think there are some pretty fundamental differences. I think this Australian-made spend would certainly be one of them. I'm pretty done. Are you good?
Me too.
I'm feeling good. Done. Yeah. Last chance to leave a comment, ladies and gentlemen, as we do the outro. If you'd like to say hello to anyone, feel free to put it on the chat and we can bring it up on the screen for you. But thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for checking us out. And Jake, once our listeners have finished coming up with their own acronyms for
once our listeners have submitted a complaint to the Institutional Streamlined. What is it? ISAC? I can't remember.
Yeah.
The Independent Streamlined against corruption.
Yeah.
ISAC.
Once our listeners have figured out what the S in ISAC stands for, what would you like them to do?
Yeah. Love them to go to patreon.com/The Pouch, the podcast, and consider becoming a patron of the show. Helps us keep the lights on, and so many lights we do have. But if you're not ready for that level of intimacy, that's fine to consider going to thepouchthepodcast.com, finding the podcast listening application of your choice and leaving a comment, because it helps for people to find us, helps with all those algorithms, helps people to find us, and also makes us feel all warm and fuzzy too.
It does. It does. Helps us remain in the top 10 of political podcasts in China and Qatar, apparently. And if
Yes.
you'd like to share the love, far and wide, you may do so by telling your friends, families, or foes to head to thepouchofthepodcast.com, where they can choose their favourite podcast player of choice and subscribe that way. That's it, Jake. That's all I've got. Oh, so much to discuss.
Yeah, I know.
So much
I
to
had
get
less.
your head around.
Exactly. Yep. My head is around it now. It's all around it.
I've got my head around so much of it that my neck is just absolutely annihilated.
That's how you did it.
Yeah.
That is how you did it.
That's right. Just trying to get my head around this politics stuff.
Building monoliths and trying to get your head around politics.
All right. Thanks, Jake. I'll see you next week.